Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bantz. As always, I am your host, the Bantz. And here we are, we finally made it through the weekend. I hope you all had a good time off. But now, once again, it is time for our first What's Happening in Fashion for the week. So let's just get right into it. And first up, as always, we have our headlines for the day. And in our first headline of the day, we finally have an update to Lil Yachty selling his Supreme collection on Grail. So let's talk about it. So without going too deep into detail, mainly because I already covered this, basically what happened is Lil Yachty went to Instagram and basically said that he was tired of seeing people, including himself, wear Supreme, so he decided to go to Grail and sell the bulk of his collection. If you do want a little bit more of an in-depth analysis plus my opinion on it, then I will link the video I talked about it in the description down below. But now on to the update, of course. So last week the Grail collection finally went up and it was huge, to say the least. And at the time of this video's release, just in Supreme resales alone, he has made over $25,000. And as you can tell, I'm not very surprised by this, mainly because of what I said before. One, there are plenty of dumbasses out there still willing to buy resold Supreme. And two, there are plenty of people out there that just want to get their hands on stuff that Lil Yachty once owned. To me, the more surprising thing was the fact that he sold some of the other things that he sold, such as number 9 one-offs, Raf Simons pieces, Rick Owens stuff, and just a bunch of other high fashion, luxury fashion brands that are still fairly popular and definitely don't have the street cred that Supreme has to most of his younger fan base. But this once again leads me back to the same question I had when talking about this prior. With the fact that he is selling Supreme because supposedly he's tired of wearing it and or seeing it, how do you think that will affect the public, other famous people? Will we finally start seeing a mass reselling of Supreme? As far as the other brands go that he decided to sell off, I don't think it's that big of a deal, mainly due to the fact that those companies all have a really solid footing in fashion outside of trends and styles. So there will always be people picking up that stuff no matter if it's trending or not. But I don't think really the same can be said for Supreme, because remember, all in all, when it comes down to it, is that Supreme is still a streetwear brand, and streetwear brands solely rely on hype to get sold and remain relevant. But once again, that is just my personal opinion, and I'd really love to hear what you guys think about this whole situation. And then in our second headline of the day, we finally get to see the Fall/Winter 2018 lookbook from Nike ACG's newest collection, and it's interesting, to say the least. Now, for those of you who don't remember and needed just a quick refresher, Nike and Errolson, obviously of acronym fame, have recently parted ways and are no longer working on ACG together. And since then, Nike has stated that what they're planning to do with the ACG line from now on is kind of revert back to the vintage style of it that we saw in earlier renditions through the 80s and 90s. And just by looking at this lookbook, you definitely see a ton of that here. We're definitely seeing a lot of design ideas, aesthetics, graphics, and colorways from that era, just updated a little bit so that they feel a little bit more modern, but still definitely have that late 80s, early 90s vibe. And how do I personally feel about it? Well, I guess you could at least say it's interesting. For one thing, just right off the bat, obviously if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know I'm very biased against this era of style, mainly because I really didn't like it, and I'm really not enjoying its revival either. But even with that said, I think Nike ACG did a very good job nailing that exact style in this collection here. And I really do think it was a smart business decision for them to revive this style. I mean, look at how many other brands from that era are just absolutely killing it right now. I mean, we have Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren and Polo Ralph Lauren and Fila and Champion, just to name a few among many others. The only really unfortunate thing about this is that this revival has already been going on for a couple of years now, and Nike won't be able to make as big of a stake in the market as they could have if they had started this 2, 3, even 4 years ago. But all in all, this is a decent collection, and even more so if you are a fan of this style. But to me, I'm just very interested in seeing exactly how they go along with this line from now on, and seeing how they choose to evolve it as this trend starts to slowly wane over time. Alright, and now with our headlines done, let's move on to our art stories for the day. And first up, the Nature Mort Gallery in New Delhi, India just opened up their newest exhibit with pieces solely made out of AI generated technologies. And even though this is still a relatively new idea, especially in the art world, I still think it's very interesting to see exactly what these softwares come up with. And if you're interested as well, I definitely check out some of these photos. Then the Maddox Gallery in London just announced that starting next week, they will be opening their newest exhibit on renowned artist Richard Hambleton. So if you want to see some of his past works or learn a little bit more about the artist, I definitely check this out. And lastly, the Henry Ford Museum just wrapped up their showcase on Ray and Charles Eames, known famously for some of their design work, specifically their chairs. But if you want to see some of the other designs that they became so renowned for, then I definitely check out some of the photos in this collection as well. Okay, and now moving back into our fashion stories for the day. First up, I just wanted to quickly highlight the 2 new Bape collaborations, the Mastermind Japan and the Steve Aoki, mainly because, not that I want to talk about them, you should know that they fucking suck. It's just more kind of funny to me to see such a slowly irrelevant brand collaborating with 2 other slowly irrelevant brands. Something about it is just really humorous to me, even though I can't really place my finger on it. Then designer Kiko Kostadinov showed off his fall-winter 2018 collection, and I'm really happy to say that it seems to be a return to form, almost. So for those of you who don't know, Kiko is an amazing creative young designer who really made a name for himself a couple years back after doing this really nice Stussy collaboration. However, even with all the potential that he has shown from season to season, a lot of those collections tend to be really hit or miss, and especially over the last couple collections, as I've talked about in previous WHIFs before. But I'm really happy to say that we're starting to see a lot more of that creative, that really technical side of him in this collection here, even if it's not necessarily a perfect collection. We're seeing some very nice details, some very interesting aesthetics, and overall, and most important in my opinion, some really fantastically creative pattern making as well. Unfortunately, however, we are still seeing a little bit more of the toned down, a little bit more of the drab contemporary wear that he's done in more previous seasons, but on a high note, it's definitely very few and far between here. So overall, a fairly nice collection in my opinion. If you are a fan of much more technical pieces, or even just fashion design in general, definitely check this out, and I really look forward to seeing Kiko doing much more of this in the future. Then Kith showed off their newest collaboration. Yeah, it's already that time of year, the time when Kith seems to be doing a collaboration every fucking week now. This time with the legendary brand Tommy Hilfiger, and I have to say I think they did an excellent job with it here. Now starting off, there is a wide variety of pieces in this collection, as you'd expect from pretty much any Kith collaboration nowadays. We're talking hats, a ton of different tops and outerwear, bottoms, accessories, and even a handful of shoes. Although, let's be real here, the shoes fucking suck. But as far as everything else goes, It's amazingly well thought and put together. Usually when I think of a Kith collection, whether it be their in-house line or their collaborations, they're always usually fairly well done. But even with that said, it always seems like they're always trying to kind of tiptoe along the edge or push the boundaries of these pieces. And although it always usually works, it always kind of seems like they're a little bit crazy or a little bit over-designed at times. But I'm getting absolutely none of that in this collection here. Tommy Hilfiger's designs definitely take the reins in this collection, as it really does feel like a branch of Tommy Hilfiger. I mean, when it comes down to graphics, the embroideries, the colorways, and just the overall look and feel of all the clothes, it really does feel like a Tommy Hilfiger collection. But those few little design aesthetics, those little tweaks here and there that Kith just loves to do, as I just said, do shine through here. That's the only thing from making this feel exactly 100% like a Tommy Hilfiger collection. But even with those little tweaks and little aesthetics and details, it's still very clean and still feels very toned down, even for as colorful and just loud as some of these pieces can get. I don't know if there was just a lot more time and effort put into this collection over possible other collabs that I've seen with the brand, or maybe just luck happened to strike them on more than one occasion through this lookbook, but just the melding of these two brands here is just so incredible. This could very well possibly be one of the best, if not the best, collaboration I've seen all year. So major props once again to both Kith and Tommy Hilfiger here, and if any of this collection looked interesting to you, definitely be on the lookout for it. And finally, let's move on to our articles for the day. And first up, Fast Company did a fantastic interview / overview with some of the people behind the company Rambler's Way, a US made sustainable clothing company that sells direct to consumer, talking about kind of the history of the brand, kind of the trials and tribulations they had to go through getting to where they are today, and the success they are actually in now. And it's a very interesting take on kind of learning about the fashion industry, especially if you're more interested in the ethical side, the US made side, and even the sustainable side of things. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, I'd definitely give this a read. Then Grail did a very nice write-up and overview on fashion designer Grace Wales Bonner, going over her history and kind of her impact on menswear as a whole. So if you want to learn a little bit more about fashion history or just her in general, I definitely check out this. And lastly, Corsi did a small but still very interesting write-up on Japanese internet retailer Zozotown, and more specifically their Zozosuit, which when put on, it's sort of like a morph suit, and paired with their app helps the wearer get their complete size run, whether it be your waist, your chest, the lengths of everything you could possibly need. And it's a very interesting take on just exactly how technology is helping out fashion design, and if this sounds interesting to you, I would definitely look into this as well. Alright guys, and with that, we've reached the end of our first whiff for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you want to see some of the lookbook images I wasn't able to include, or some of the articles I talked about today, I've linked everything in the description down below. If you are new here, then welcome to the channel. We do these what's happening in fashion videos twice a week at the beginning and end of the week, plus another occasional video here or there. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, if you just have any questions, comments, concerns, or even just want to talk fashion in general, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I am always willing to talk fashion. And once again guys, thank you so much for watching these videos and supporting my content. I hope you all have a great week until I see you next, and as always, until next time.